Hello, everyone, and welcome back again. So today, for a couple of things, I just posted to the team the ethical affirmative negative position topics. I tried as much as possible to make them kind of general, but also didn't want to go into anything too current eventsy, kind of pandemic related or anything like that. Although there's a lot of stuff that's come out in the past year that's related to that. We'll talk more about that in the second hour, since that's more related to the specific. It's more related to the ethical side of things, the ethical paper that you're supposed to be preparing. The one thing I do want to say that's kind of related to both is, so again, there's two assignments that have been posted for this semester. One is a short paper, and one is a longer term paper, and each of them has their own requirements, specifications. One thing that I want to figure out a way to do kind of easily and conveniently for everybody is for you to tell me which one do you want to be which, right? Because everyone needs to write a short paper, everyone needs to have a longer paper with a presentation of some kind, and I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to get you to tell me which one you want. Do you want the ethical thing to be the short paper? Do you want the the literature review side of things to be your short paper? So I may just have you comment or something. I don't know. I haven't really decided the best way to go about doing that. But okay, so today what we're supposed to be discussing is, I looked at the list here, and today we should be having scanning of resources, but I kind of looked through and realized that as far as scanning of resources, writing the hypothesis, I don't necessarily think that that's an entire week worth of material each. So the set of slides that I posted is about designing an experiment, is about experimental design and how to go about doing that. I do want to go ahead and have a discussion, though, about the scanning of resources, writing the hypothesis. We may end up filling the whole hour with that, but the slides are still, they're available for those of you who would want to know more about how to the methodologies for designing an experiment. A lot of it was, some of it was new, sort of new information for me, in the sense that, so my research, as far as what I did for my thesis, my dissertation, was not a particular experiment, where I had like a variable and controls and stuff like that. Was more about designing a system for conversion from, it was about having to do with modeling. And it was about conversion from a platform-specific model into what we call the platform-independent model. And it was related to assisting researchers with what's called replicability and reproducibility. And the whole idea is, without getting into too much of the details, the whole idea is centered on that right now there's very little follow-up with when people perform experiments, especially software-based, simulation-based experiments. There's not as much follow-up as we would like, with later researchers confirming the results of papers. Basically, there's a bit of people get their papers published, that becomes the accepted results, and people don't, other researchers don't follow up to replicate the results. And there's all kinds of reasons for why. But our tool is intended to help with being able to allow later researchers to confirm or in some cases refute the results of previously published work. So, um, again, all that was to say that that wasn't really an experiment. That was the development of a system, right? That was a development of a conversion utility to be able to take a model in one language and convert it into another. Uh, and so there wasn't a lot of experiments with controls and stuff like that. Some of the rest of you on here, based on last week's discussion, it sounds like some of your research was related to those fields, even if you didn't necessarily perform the experiments yourself. You were involved with facilitating the experiment of creating tools and software to be able to help with making the experiments happen. So I would like to, I'd like to, as part of that, be able to hear from you to understand how some of those experiments may have been designed well using the stuff that's in the slides. So one thing I would like to, and again, I'm gonna, just like last week, I'm gonna lean on those of you who have written a thesis before. So the doctoral students here who have completed their master's thesis and are moving on into other things, into the doctorate program here. I do wonder, so for those of you who maybe didn't perform experiments in and of themselves, right? Or maybe you didn't have some type of experiment where you took a situation without some treatment or without some variable, and then the variables applied, and we did it to see the change that happens as a result. That's in a lot of science experiments we think of that as being the way to do it. Those of you who didn't necessarily have that type of research, how would you understand what your hypothesis would have been? All right. So what was it that you were projecting was going to be the outcome of your research, and how did you confirm or deny your hypothesis? So I hope that's clear of what I'm asking. So what I would like to do is see, I'm older than you guys, right? And so I come from a time when I was some of you in this chat, some of you in this team, when I was your age, as far as how to get resources, I'd have to go to the library, right? But now many of you can go straight from your own salon. You can go from your bedroom if you want to be able to find resources. We would obviously know about Google Scholar, but what are some of the other resources that some of you have found available? And so let's do that first. Let's talk about since the topic in order is scanning of resources and hypothesis according to the syllabus. Let's talk about that first, so that we can help each other, help the other students in this class. What are some of the resources that are available out there that you have found most helpful in performing your literature review, for those of you who have done that before? Is the question clear? Okay, that's good. That's a good idea. We could post a link. Yeah. See, what I can do is I could do this. Let's see here. Come on. Okay, so we'll get to this in just a bit. Sorry, chat. All right. So Burak, you were the first to comment back. So so I'm an old person. How do I use this? What is this a keyword search, or what am I looking for in here in the search field?
You should write some article name or author to text search. Yeah.
Okay, so if I were to do an author search for, this was one of the ones that I cited from my work. So if I do an author search like this, okay, all right. So does this give me access to the paper also? So if I click on here, do I get the paper?
Yes, you can access the paper, and there is an extension link with text entry, some of the right side.
Yeah, nice.
Also, there are some other links to access that paper. Also, this website contains some restricted papers. For example, you need to pay some money for that paper, so you can search it from here and you can access it illegally, I think.
Oh, so like over here on the torrent maybe?
Yeah,
Or?
there are some torrent and other links about the paper.
Okay. Well, on the live on the live meeting here, I won't click on that link just to be safe. So.
Our course is ethic, and this is not ethical, I think.
All right, so that's an option. So maybe obviously you have to use your own judgment in that. So let's see. So in ISO, can you listed here, IEEE.org? Yeah. So you could see search websites. Let's see. So would I use this? So ISO can. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. So do I do the same thing here where I search for a keyword where I can say reproducibility? Yeah. All right. So I guess maybe you could find. But this seems like this goes to other websites, right? So this would be a way to find access to other sites. That would be good too.
Basically, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering has its divisions like IEE, signal processing, IEE, like computer, etc. And like you enter those sites and you search for search the keyword, and there are lots of articles like appearing. Maybe we should like enter the particular IEE society to access the articles.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Also, I noticed up here, I've used this before pretty frequently, is the Explore Digital Library. If you have an account with that, I'm not sure if Octanese does or not. I know that the university I got my PhD from, they had an account for me through the Explore site, but you can search here. Let's see, of a different topic. Let's say natural language. And okay, and it comes down here and gives me some options. All right. Next. All right, so like lots of options for natural language processing and different articles here. Okay. Yep, so IEEE, good. Who else? Let's see, who else you said? Archive and Google Scholar, yep. So I mentioned Google Scholar. So archive Seth, should we search physics since it's right here?
You can search whatever you want.
Yeah. Subject area, so you can subject area. So let's stick with physics. You got different topics here. Okay. I've never seen this one. I haven't used this one before. So all these different topics, electrical engineering and system science. Good. And then Google Scholar, where you just basically you can do articles or case law on them. This was somebody talked about this last time, right? The using the gate. Who was that? Which of you was that? That was your research area?
It was me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can just basically you could put in some keywords or an article title, right? All right, so these are some resources here. So GitHub, Newman. So can I just go to GitHub? What happens if I go to GitHub? How can I use this? Do I just search here? Okay. See. Right, so this would be where you could find projects, right? So this wouldn't be necessarily a place to find articles for journal and conference articles. This would be a place where you would find projects, like open source projects, right? That's my understanding, at least. Mm. Okay. Yeah. So they'll put an article too that they've written. Yeah. There's something else I saw the other day. I can't remember what. Let's see. Sci-Hub and ResearchGate. I'm assuming those two both are. See, there's all kinds of. Man, I'm still like I'm stuck in Google Scholar. That's what I use. Oh wait, I'm going to go here. Let's go here. And so.
Sites like Sci-Hub could be a topic for ethics also.
Is it? So how is that? What is it? Because I've not used Sci-Hub before, so I don't know much about it.
So Sci-Hub sometimes has papers that are supposed to be paywalled, and they get them sometimes illegally. And so if you access the paper through Sci-Hub, not through the original source, it can be considered illegal.
Okay. And so is this where you enter the URL? So you're saying like where the paper is hosted, even if it's behind a paywall, it'll go find it and get it for you? Is that what you're saying?
You know, there are some papers that like if it's published in, say, Nature, a particular Nature journal, where that Nature journal is paywalled, you can enter the URL that you can maybe go to the Nature site. But if you enter something like the DOI or something like that, they may have that paper, like the full paper, accessible, where you don't have to pay for it, and that's considered unethical. So
I see. Oh, this could be another topic for consideration on that ethical spreadsheet that you guys had access to.
And Another possible topic for ethics is the commercialization of science in the first place.
Mhm.
So you have companies like Nature, Elsevier, and these that charge for access to scientific research. The question could be asked is if that is ethical or not.
Mm. Yeah, good question. Let's see. What else? Who else? You guys put some other stuff on here. Let's see. Barak, you mentioned this one, ResearchGate. I can join for free. Yeah. So is this the same? Is this similar to the rest of them, where you can search by keyword and article title, stuff like that, or is this more kind of a journal? Search the Nature journal or something like that. The journal name.
More like journal names, but most of them are paywalled. Like you mentioned before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hugging Face. Okay, now that's a new one. I've not heard of Hugging Face before, Seth. What's that one?
They're one of the biggest groups in natural language processing.
Okay.
They've been cited in a lot of different research, including Google research, TensorFlow, Microsoft, all of them.
Okay. Lots of people using Hugging Face. Interesting. No, I never heard of this one. I've not used it. Wow. I was reading Beric's comment there at the bottom. Ismail, you suggest this one. All right. So we can do some type of keyword search. So it'll look for different articles with those keywords and well, this word, at least words in the title. You can limit it by what year. That's good. All right. So lots of different options, right? Lots of different. So I mean, look, just through our little discussion here, our discussion that we're having within the past 10, 15 minutes. Here I've got all these tabs open related to different sites that you guys know about and suggest that you guys know about. So for those of you who are in this class, the master students who may not have or may just starting on your that is an ethical question, Seth. That is an ethical question for sure. But all these options that we have here available to you guys to use. So for those of you who are just starting out, writing your thesis, writing your kind of trying to figure out what topic you want to research, this would be a huge number of resources here, and I would imagine this isn't even all of them, right? This isn't even the majority of the resources available, but this would be some good starting places for you to be able to search out for articles and other works like here in GitHub, projects that are related to what it is that you want to research and related to the thesis that you want to write. Okay, so we discussed, so that's some resources of how to scan for resources that are available. And you do still have, go to conferences and listen to talks. I mean, I would even say you could look up on, TED, right? And look at TED Talks, because those are oftentimes very informative. So you can just see different things here. So like Bill Gates talks about climate change. What's that one? You suggest there's how AI can save our humanity. So there's all kinds of different TED Talks that you could look at as well, right? So this could be a resource that you wouldn't necessarily have to go look at a journal article, but this would be similar to a conference presentation.
You should be careful with those TED Talks. Some of the presenters are basically selling snake oil. You have to use your own judgment. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. So what's this? Newman, what is this you've sent us a link to? So is this a this is a conference? Okay. Looks like we missed it. All right. It looks like we may have missed that conference, but I'm assuming that the what was discussed there, like videos here. All right. So we can see videos that were made available. There you go. Let's see what about. So I'm guessing these MP4s are their video files. I guess the web empty, but cool. Cool. So there you go. Yeah. Some different things from this particular conference. What Nuwan brings up here too is like attending conferences and making contacts can also be very helpful, right? I know that there's a conference that happened here at Octonese just a few years ago. I don't know if it's every year that it comes to our university, but I attended that conference a few years ago before I worked here. So anyway, lots of options here. Like Seth said, with any of these options, you're going to have to be careful with how comfortable you might feel using it. With, for example, you brought up Sci-Hub. There's an illegal aspect to that, so you may want to be careful with that part of it. With TED Talks, as was brought up, is I mean, I have friends that say, well, how can a guy like Bill Gates, who's a software developer and a software company owner, like, why does he get to tell us about climate science? So I'm not too uncomfortable with that, but at the same time, I understand that you may want to cite an actual expert in the field in which you are researching. Would probably be a good idea. All right. So, all right. So that's a whole lot of resources that we have available to us. So those of you who are just starting out, that would be good there. As far as the other part of what I said I wanted to discuss today, the hypothesis aspect of how to draft a hypothesis. So some of you, I know, your research wasn't necessarily a straight experiment that said, I'm going to have some controls, I'm going to have some variables, I'm going to apply the variable conditions. That some of you had other types of research. How would you draft what your hypothesis was? So I'm going to pick on you, Seth, because I know yours. I know you and I have talked quite a bit. So how would you describe, like, what did you expect going into the research? What did you expect the outcome to be? And how did you say, I'm going to say, this is what I'm looking for the outcome to be? Like, how did you, because basically what a hypothesis is in some regard is kind of, it's a way to, in advance of doing the research, is say, this is what I'm expecting the outcome to be. With a traditional experiment of, I say this is what the outcome is going to be, I run some experiments, I run some tests, and then I on the other end, my results tell me whether or not my hypothesis was correct, whether or not my prediction was correct. So Seth, why don't you share with us, and then I'll ask for anybody else to share as well. How did you draft your understanding of a hypothesis for your research? Like, what did you expect your outcome to be?
Okay, so the hypothesis is basically the proposed explanation from which you can derive predictions.
Mm-hmm.
And so in what I was doing, there was no naturally occurring kind of control. So I had to choose something as a baseline against which to compare. And so I did that. The established technology being used for the application. And then I had a hypothesis that certain newer approaches would perform better because of certain particular reasons. That's hypothesis is the explanation of the reasons. And then I had two actual hypotheses. One was that this newer technology, because it worked differently in a particular way, leads to better results. And it addresses certain specific issues that were missed in previous technology. And then also with the knowledge of like how certain systems work, I developed the hypothesis that making the system into smaller units would actually make it perform better just due to the nature of the system. And so those are the hypotheses. And then the prediction was that it would perform better based on these, for these reasons. And then I did the experiments and showed that.
And in the future weeks, we'll also talk about, so today I just want to talk about the hypothesis, like how to draft, what is your prediction going to be? Because again, in some types of research, it's not always easy to understand what my prediction is going to be, like what Seth talked about there. And then in future weeks, we'll talk about how to, for different types of research, of how to test our hypothesis, whether or not it was proved or disproved or left ambiguous. So is there anyone else who has completed their thesis, their master's thesis, that or even if you haven't completed that, even if you've just started on it, but you're at least, you know what your hypothesis is, why don't you share with us how did you go about the process of drafting your hypothesis?
Hey, I can talk about my thesis actually.
Please do.
Okay, so I made a device that collects EO signals. The device called this electronic stethoscope, which transfer the signals wirelessly. But there was one issue. There was environmental noise in the clinical room. So my hypothesis was to cancel that environmental noise via using a second microphone in the sensor, the acoustic sensor. So that was it. So I collected a data set. Then I made my tests, and my hypothesis was correct. So I was able to cancel that noise.
So my understanding is that your hypothesis was adding a second microphone into the sensor would reduce the amount of environmental noise that was being received?
Yes.
Cool.
The second microphone referencing the environmental noise only. So I could see the effects of environmental noise in the primary microphone. So that was it.
Nice. Someone else? Someone else feel comfortable to share their hypothesis? Nelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yes, Seth said to call on you.
But I would like to hear our fellow classmates' opinion on this subject.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I will be able to add something.
Yeah. Well, maybe also for those of you, Seth, Erdinch, or anyone else as well, because I think one thing that I just thought of as well is how did you come to the hypothesis that you did? Like, how did you like Erdinch, you I think so the goal would be to be able to have the acoustic sensors behave in such a way that we limited environmental noise that was distracting, that was interfering with accurate readings, right? And so why a second microphone? Why, how did you come to that as being an option?
Yeah, actually, like 1 or 2 years passed through by just making a literature research. So using one microphone, there was lots of signal processing methods, but eventually they were not effective as much as I was expecting. So actually my advisor, Professor Ulushar, inspired from the idea of the active noise cancellation headphones. So maybe that can be used in our system. So that was the question.
So he was inspired by something that wasn't even related to the topic itself, but he thought, oh, maybe we could use this type of idea in this, right?
Yeah. it was never, biomedical sensors. So we give it a try. So yeah, that was it.
Nice. Okay, so Newman shares with us that his thesis was building a lightweight big data distribution. Lightweight was the point of his thesis. At the operating system level, using fewer resources like RAM and CPU, replaced some of the big data components connectors with software based. I'm assuming you're saying that you replaced some of the replaced some of the hardware components with software. Is that what I understand that to mean? And then you got a Linux disk image, a Linux image that uses fewer resources. Right. So let me see. So the goal here, the goal of your research was to make it like a component, right? Components with software-based components, I think is what you're saying. And I would think as part of your hypothesis that you would also be saying that this would be without a drastic reduction and be able to replace hard components with software products and not have a reduction in efficiency or other types of utilization, right? Mm. Okay. All right. Okay. I see. And when you say uses less resources, you mean version of the hardware? Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that. I'm going to assume yes is the answer to that question. Oh no problem. I was asking some questions about what you had written there. That my understanding, Newman, is that your hypothesis was related to that you would be able to replace hardware-based components with software-based components and be able to reduce the necessity. If that's the case, then lightweight would even mean not just lightweight in terms of resource allocation, but even like lightweight in terms of the physical weight of the of what it is you were working with. But the hypothesis would be that you could replace those things without performance and is that right? So there's no, you're saying there was no hardware base. So I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. So I think for those who have a hypothesis or for their current research, just getting started in trying to begin their research. It could be the doctoral students who may. I understand what it's like sometimes. You spend a long time. You can't hear me? Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. Microphone. Okay, I turned off the microphone and turned it back on. Is that any better? Sweet. Oh, it's the internet. I'm on the. Okay. I have a. Okay, I see the problem. All right, we are going to cut this because I need to switch what router I'm using. We'll pick up in 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. All right.